drank pots and pots and pots and pots of strong black coffee, trying to keep my sleepy soul awake. But the sleepiness still comes along, and when it does, it's fast and strong. I end up with a bad case of the shakes.
Good morning and welcome back to Tactics Talk. Got a coffee talk this morning. It's early on a Sunday, about 7 a.m. I have my breakfast blend, which is truly awful coffee. I like the dark stuff. Unfortunately, I reached in and grabbed that Terabad bit of coffee, and here I am drinking it, unfortunately. You may have noticed I did not have a coffee talk last week. That's because I pert near died from a sinus infection, so that was tons of fun. And since I'm older, then I'm going to discuss with my audience all my ailments. But the good news is 2 weeks has given me some things to talk about. So we are going to jump into this. What you can expect today is we'll go over the missions and specials, and we'll talk about some of the offers, more buffoonery within the missions tab by Wargaming. I'll try to unpack some of that for you guys. And then the second part, we're just going to dive into the 9.20.1 matchmaker improvements, which once again Wargaming has outdone themselves and has turned something that should be very easy into something very complicated, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how it pans out. So let's get started. Grab your coffee, have a sip, or tea if that's your thing. Let's go. Okay, diving into the shop, looking at the featured stuff. It looks like the WZ-111 is out there. My recommendation on that, I do own that and I have 3 marked it. It is a very good tank and it has preferential matchmaking. Let me caveat that slightly by saying it was a very good tank and has preferential matchmaking. In the past, preferential matchmaking would really overcome a lot of deficiencies, but now that you're going to be facing the new pay-to-win heavy tier 8s, things like the Defender and the Patriot and the Liberté and all that good stuff, it is a bit limited at this point and requires quite a bit of gold. Still, pretty good tank, will make you good money, just don't expect it to dominate even with preferential like it used to. It did get a buff in the recent past, I want to say in the last 6 months or so, so it is much better than it used to be. It's quite zippy, pretty cool tank. So I'm on the fence about whether I'd recommend someone to get it. If you're a pretty good player, I would definitely recommend getting it. If you want a Chinese crew trainer or just a heavy tier 8 out there as a premium. If you are a mediocre to bad player, I don't think I would really recommend this tank. I would probably get one of the other tier 8s, one of the newer ones, like the Defender or something like that. For the Pudel, that's back out, or has been. I'm not sure if it's been in there for a while. I think it's back. This one, the Hydrostat, I do not have this tank. From what I understand, it used to be a pretty good tank. Now it's mediocre at best. It is very rare, not a lot of them out there. As far as very rare is anymore in World of Tanks, based on how many times they've sold things. But you are going to drop 99 bucks. And look, you're going to save 71 cents. It's minus 6%. Oh, Wargaming, you never cease to amaze. 23 hours to get this thing. There's a lot of other stuff coming with that. You get 15,000 gold, which is quite a bit, and then 5 more items. I'm not going to click on that, but when you get 5 more items and you're buying things like equipment or silver for money, that's not really, I do not recommend that. If you got the money and you need to speed up, you need the equipment or you need to get the silver to buy something, noted, do what you got to do, but for me, I just do not do that. The credit card special here is decent. You're getting a pretty good discount on quite a bit of gold. If that's what you want is just pure gold, then that's a good way to do it if you're in the market for that. And then the 131 is back in. We're going to jump over to the vehicles because there's a couple of the vehicles you might be interested in. There's the WZ once again. Of course, you can get it in the 3 different packages all the way down just to buying the tank itself. The Pudel, the British tanks are back. We've got the AC4, the FV201 A45, and then for some reason the 131 is interspersed between the British tanks. Oh my god. And the TOG 2, which is a fantastically fun tank. Now, don't expect too much out of the TOG 2. I've actually done pretty good with mine. I used to be like number 3 on the server or something like that. Probably not anymore because it's been a long time since I've really played the tank, but it is actually quite a bit of fun. Not too expensive. So if you're just in for a goofy tank that's fun and quite unique actually, the TOG is the way to go. And I don't mean unique by there's not a lot out there, because there are quite a few. Unique as in almost nobody plays it. You'll quickly learn why not, but you're going to have a good time doing it, I guarantee it. All right, so that is it for the missions. Or for the specials. Let's jump over to the mission. Okay, here we go. Man, are they ever going to get this right? I just don't know. Over in the events, we've got the E100s. That's the only event on track, and that goes to the 20th. So if you're still grinding through that, you have till the 20th to knock that out. That's 5 days. You can see I played maybe my Tiger 2 once or twice, so I think I did a little bit in there. I might just do it just to trip the 25,000. When you're looking at this on track stuff, if you happen to play some of the tanks, take a look at it every once in a while. And if you're close to tripping the 25, every 25,000 you get a prize or some goodies, go ahead and just do it. There's some decent stuff down there to grab. And if you're already playing those tanks anyway, then that's a good thing to grab a few goodies around the edge. We switch over to the missions tab now. Now this gets a little goofy. I'm going to have to jump around a little bit here. First you have Small Supply Raid, which is just an ongoing event till the 16th of October. And destroy the pursuers. Enemy vehicles destroyed. This is pretty straightforward. Every 25 you can do this 5 times and you get these things, which are they small? Yeah, they're small. So it's okay. You're getting some free stuff. And you're just going to do that anyway by playing. So nothing really to concentrate on there. Just kill guys as you go. For the raiding the depot, it's enemy vehicles damaged every 5, and then you'll complete that 5 of 5 times, and you get something actually pretty good. It's a 25%er, but if you don't have a horde of reserves, I'm not sure who doesn't have a horde of reserves, but say you don't, you're getting one right there. So that's okay, and that just happens as you play. You're just going to damage guys as you play the game. And then spotted, 10 of 10. And you do that 5 times, and once again, now you're getting a plus 100% crew, and that's actually useful right there. Misclick on that. So those are okay. Those are just going to happen while you play. No need to really hunt those down. Now we're back to the old 1 of 4, 2 of 4. At least this is in order this time, and this is for the tank rewards tank hollow event that's going on. So you're collecting iron seals. You can see that I've got 34 of 68. I believe once I finish that, I'm going to get some 50% credit, or 2 of those 50% credit guys right there. So that's pretty cool. For Halloween, it was 20,000 damage, and this is not the daily. There was 5 of these. Okay, so that's part of the 68 total you can get. So I knocked that one out. Every 20,000 damage, you got 1 iron seal token, and it went over here and counted up. There was an issue with the counting. I believe it's correct now. I did the math yesterday, and it was pretty close, if not spot on. Tank rewards, this is the daily, so 15,000 experience. So just drop yourself some reserves right there, play 4 or 5 games, and more than likely, as long as you're at the tier 5 or above area, you'll probably knock this out in 5, 10 at the most games if you're having a bad day. And you use your ×2 / ×3, whatever it is, and you use a reserve. If you're just going to roll regular, or if you're on standard account, I've been called to on the carpet about that by several people who watch. Noted, if you're on a standard account, you're going to have a harder time. Definitely drop reserves if you've got them, if you're rolling a standard account to knock out that 15,000, which in that point can be quite a grind each day. But with premium tank, ×2s, and reserves, this happens for me sometimes in 3 battles. All right, so 2 of 4. So you look at it, it says Halloween Weekly 3 and 2. Naturally, 2 would be on the right and 3 would be... Is that how Russians count? They don't read right to left, do they? I'm pretty sure they don't. Okay, so anywho, there you have it. You might wonder where Halloween Weekly number 1 is. All I can figure out is it's actually this one that says Halloween. Maybe there's no 1 there for some reason. But these have a 2 and 3. Okay, so it's the first, that's the second and third. Got it. There you go. I've noted this before in the past, but this says random battles fought. Seems like, hey, I do 10 random battles, and I'm going to trip it once. I can do that 5 times, and I'm going to get my reserve. What turns out that I was playing, and I was not getting any of these ticked off, so I'm thinking, what's going on? So you can see I've done 4 or 5, so I've done 40 of these, essentially. So, of course, you have to click on it to see what in the hay is going on. And guess what? You have to be in a platoon. Why that can't be here, down here on this little text box, I don't know. One thing I was thinking about this, and maybe somebody can fill me in, if you're on a lower resolution or smaller screen than I'm rolling, maybe there's not as much room. I can't see that as really being an issue, but potentially there's some kind of resolution or enough room thing going on here. Why they don't actually put useful information here that's very critical to this. All right, so we've got 2 and 3, and we come down here, and then we've got Tank Mastery. And you might be thinking to yourself, hey, aren't we on Halloween Weekly 4 or something like that? Well, you would be right, because if you come down all the way past the 2 Tank Mastery things, you'll find Halloween Weekly 5. Wait a minute, where's 4? What happened here? 2, 3. What happened to 4? Nobody knows where 4 is. Oh, there it is. It's, of course, to the right of 5, right? Why wouldn't it be? Okay, so these are in other missions. You would think they would actually be number 3 of 4, but no, they've been dropped down in other missions because somebody doesn't know what the F they're doing at the UI management department of Wargaming. Holy cow, are you kidding me? This is weird because it's also just playing in platoons. So you essentially have 2 missions where you have to play in a platoon, and you do that 50 times and you trip this. So, okay guys, that's just lazy, isn't it? And then this one is receive one of the awards, which, once again, here we go. One of these awards, which there are 1, 2, 3 listed, then you hover over it, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listed, but there's more rewards, so you have to click on it. No, you have to click on the list. God. You have got to be kidding me. Anywho, it's a lot of the kind of special awards for performance. You can do that 5 times. You notice that I'm bad, and I've only managed that 3 times. You can get 5 of those tokens, and you can get up to 5 of these tokens. So hopefully we've unpacked that. Also over on other missions, which this one actually seems to be an other mission, is this weekend, the Friday the 13th weekend, is win a battle. And it looks like you can do that twice a day, and you get an extra 50,000 credits, which if you're rolling standard account or you're a newer player that's looking for credits, this is fantastic. Just play the game and you're going to end up for every 2 games, or wait a minute, every 10 games you're going to get 50,000 more silver credits, and that's 100,000 for 20 games. That's quite a few games just to get that, but hey, it's a little extra on the top end, so no real reason to complain. And that looks like everything we've got for the missions. I will bring us over quickly to the tank rewards page. Let's take a quick look at that. Just so you remember how this is going. You can see that I've earned 24 houses. What you do is once they drop your points on, you click on the house, and then the prize comes up. If you come down here, you'll see that I have earned these prizes here. Pretty cool. I got a Gross Tractor a couple weeks back. This last week, I just got some gold, a Meathead Militia, a Chieftain. These are basically useless to me. I mean, I appreciate those 2 guys. They're pretty cool dudes, and I do watch a lot of their videos and see what they're doing out there, but I could care less about their emblems. Anywho, you can see I got 24,000 barrack slots. 24,000, that's a lot of barrack slots. I got 24,000. I got 24 barrack slots, which I don't need. Now again, newer players, you might need some barrack slots, so that would be pretty cool right in there. Remember that when I talk about a lot of this stuff, that I'm talking from the very top end of the game towards the end of it. So for a lot of guys, especially some people who are watching my videos, these are actually all very good. Got a day of premium, won't complain about that. Some gold and some kits in there. So while I didn't do quite as great as I did the time before, you can see that I got quite a few cool things, especially these credit boosters, which are fantastic. Move back up here, you'll see that additionally for the tank rewards, there's break points for points where you get something else. You get some Tank Hollow emblems, a garage slot. I'm not even sure if these have been awarded yet, because this is on your journey to unlocking more houses, blah blah blah. Bonus houses will not count. Oh wait, where is it? Oh, please note that all Tank Hollow emblems from houses will be credited after the release of update 9.20. So I'm assuming that the graphics are in the update right there. Without pushing a micro patch, they're not going to come until you get that. To be quite honest, I'm not sure. I know I haven't been given these because that note says that, but whether I got the garage slot or not, I'm not actually sure. And this is weird because I know I have 30 points, but these 2 show given. This one shows almost there, but I am at 33. So my assumption is next midweek when they drop the points again and the houses come back up, then this will trip the 30 point, and I'll let you know if that actually comes into my account. I'll be able to tell because right now I don't have any credit boosters. A lot of times I can't tell because I have so much stuff in there. When they add a thing here or there, it's hard to tell. It will show up on the bottom right on your little list of things that you get added to your account in the client, but oftentimes I just kind of miss that. Up to 45 points where you're going to get a Dicker Max, or if you already have that, you're going to get the gold. So this is all cool. You know, I'm not scoffing Tank Hollow. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this, but what's difficult is to figure out what the hey you have to do. Here they are broken down. That's what we just talked about in the client. A lot of times with this, if you get in the client and you're confused and you can't figure it out, go to this Tank Rewards website and it will list out in a pretty good and succinct way what it is you need to do, provided all these things are correct. That's how I finally figured out, or one of the ways I finally figured out, that you had to be in a platoon. You can see that it says battle types random grand battle. Let's find the one that's in the platoon. Here it is. Restrictions: must be in a platoon. Battle types random grand. Okay, so that's correct. It has to be in a random or a grand, but you have to be in a platoon while doing it. I also like how this thing is marked off. It says Halloween weekly. No, just make it go across and say weekly too, man. Come on. I don't. That's amazing. Okay, we have 2 more to unlock on these right now. And that is pretty much it for that long dissertation on going over the website and taking a look at it. Hopefully I've unpacked most of that for you and you understand it. So let's move on to the meat of this, which is going to be a fun discussion on Wargaming's new attempt to balance Matchmaker. This is fascinating. All right, guys, make sure you have some coffee for this because this is going to require, hopefully you have some Kahlua in it actually for this one. So Wargaming has been feverishly attempting to fix their matchmaking. We got the 357, we got the balance of TDs, SPGs, and lights. We got nearly everything except for the one thing that matchmaking actually needed, the glaringly obvious problem of mismatch in heavies and mediums. And that has been, from the very beginning, their actual issue. Even if they use their old matchmaking, if they just balanced heavies and mediums and tiers, then they would have fixed it. Now they fixed the tier part, right, with 357, 510, or single tier battles. The tier mismatch is pretty much gone. But what that exposed was the actual problem with their matchmaking, which is the heavy to medium mismatch. They put a small band-aid on it and tried to feed us the line that TDs, scouts, and SPGs were the issue, when of course they weren't, because once they supposedly matched those, they still had the issue, and the issue has always been heavies and mediums. So let's take a look at the way they're going to fix this. All right, the way they're going to fix this, Wargaming has this strange capability to create problems in their mind that don't exist and then find fixes for them. In this case, that's not exactly it. They do understand that they have a problem with their heavy and medium mismatch. But what they've created in their mind is this idea that somehow there's this very important matching of roles. So they want to break down their mediums and heavies into certain roles, which end up being quite arbitrary. Because the fact of the matter is that the people who determine what the role of a tank is in the Pixel Tank game, when you hit battle and what their quote-unquote role is, are the players. And it's interesting to watch companies when they attempt to balance their game, when they try to stovepipe and force certain units into certain roles. When they come at it with that at that angle without actually trying to understand how the players play the game, they're trying to force the players to play the game they want it to, the way they want it to be played, then you get very bad things happen for your balance. And I think that's extremely interesting. So let's take this, we're going to really break this down and unpack this. I'm going to end up reading quite a bit of it. I'll comment as I go. So it starts, have you ever played Himmelsdorf against a team that has more heavies than you? Or perhaps you've watched victory slip from your fingers on an open map simply because the other camp was lucky enough to have more mediums in their ranks. Well, that is absolutely valid. I completely agree with that. That is the basic problem. Update 9.2.1 clamps down on these frustrating scenarios by adding an extra parameter. And I was thinking when I started reading this, fantastic, they are going to match, they are going to try to balance heavies and mediums. I'm like, if they just balanced heavy and mediums, we'd be good to go. by adding an extra parameter to the matchmaker, vehicle combat rolls. Ugh, come on. This is interesting because this is something that has been, let me fix my hat here. This is something that I have heard the devs mention on many occasions, starting about a year ago when Thane, I believe, mentioned it in one of these player get-together question and answer things. And when I heard them say it, there were no details on what they meant. And the hair on the back of my neck started to rise right there. Because I knew where they were, what they were trying to think of, and I just went, that is not it, fellas. That is not it. You are going to go down a rabbit hole and waste your time by trying to break your tanks down into rolls. That's what classes are for, kind of, in this game. But anywho, simply put, we taught the matchmaker to see the difference between a Maus and an IS-7. Oh boy. For example, now it balances them separately to create two evenly assembled teams. It would place the former against other heavily armored tanks, while the IS-7 gets to face 110E5s and FV-215Bs. Just as a side note, you're removing the FV-215B. Why would it even be noted? I know it's not a big deal, but it's not even a tank. Anyway, let's take a closer look, shall we? Yay, this will be great. So, along with balancing teams by vehicle classes, artillery, light tanks, and tank destroyers. All right, so you're not balancing it by vehicle classes because you left out mediums and heavies. So all you did was put a balance of artillery, lights, and tank destroyers. That's not all the classes and platoons. The matchmaker now looks into the intended roles. This is the key, the absolute key to why the rest of this is completely and utterly borked. Their intended roles. All right, Wargaming's intended roles. If you're coming at the game like this, especially in a mature game, a game this mature with such an established meta, you are completely off base. Completely off base. Okay, so ensure each side has a similar number of vehicles that play the same role. Oh boy. Of course, their exact number might differ, but this difference is only one vehicle at the most. I could stop the entire rest of this discussion that they're about to put in by stating what they should do, which is just make sure each team has the same amount of heavies and mediums within one. That's all you got to do. It really and truly is. The super heavies are somewhat problematic, but I think over time that would even itself out based on map selection, because sometimes the super heavy, depending on the map, isn't that great. Sometimes you want that fast heavy that does more DPG or fires faster or whatever the case may be. So they didn't do that, did they? We'll come down here. Essentially, the new added parameter balances out the number of autoloaders. Holy cow. So now autoloaders are a role, or they're a class. Are they a role or a class? Or are they just autoloaders that need to be balanced? Come on, fellas. Come on. So they're going to balance out the number of autoloaders, well-protected TDs, and assault-heavy tanks. Well-protected TDs and assault-heavy tanks. So these, nowhere in here is exactly spelled out what the roles are that they intend. So that should also worry you. They're arbitrary and capricious, and they're just kind of made up. I think it's kind of a vague, big, heavy, strong tanks like Mauses and Type 5s and heavy, big TDs with lots of armor. But some of the TDs with massive alpha guns are pretty heavily armored. Some are not very heavily armored at all. And they trade speed. So, Improved Matchmaker addresses another frequent concern of yours. Medium and heavy tanks are no longer distributed randomly, with classes split into smaller groups that unite vehicles with distinct playstyle. Yeah, well, what is that distinct playstyle? Wargaming, what is it? Well, what do you think it is? I bet it's not what we play or how we play it. Medium tanks with a certain role. I was not aware different medium tanks had different roles. Now, I get it. Some people are going to say this medium's a sniper or this medium's a second line guy. But that's not necessarily a role. That's just a tactic that works best for that tank. And it may have to do any of the roles that a medium tank does, if you understand what I'm saying in this game. Same with heavies, so you can forget about one-sided matchups with, let's say, 5 Bat Chats duking it out with 5 Mouses on steps. That was an interesting choice, because I'm not really sure which one has the benefit right there. If the Bat Chats go to the open side and roll up all your lights and mediums and a heavy or two that happen to go over there, then they're probably going to swarm the Mouses who are duking it out over in the rocks. Or if the Mouses wreck every face in the rocks and take out all your heavies, they might be able to turn and take on the Bat Chats and not really worry about it. So that's a weird choice for me. Why not say something like Himmelsdorf, where the Mouses have a very clear bonus, a very clear advantage is the word I'm looking for. Alzheimer's. Very clear advantage. Very strange. All right. We put in extra effort to make sure balancing by a vehicle's roll, whatever those are, undefined, does not affect the overall speed of matchmaking. Well, that's fascinating, because haven't you been telling us for 3 years you can't balance classes because your matchmaker can't handle it? Okay, fair enough. You figured it out. Got it. But still, because it says, worry not, the wait time won't change, even though we've been telling you the sky would fall if we did this. 3 years. At least. Come on. What should improve is the overall quality of matches as vehicle rolls lower the chance of a team gaining the upper hand through sheer luck. You don't need rolls. At the same time, the team setups aren't mirrored, so every battle is a unique experience. Well, that's not true. You just spent a whole bunch of time telling me how you're going to mirror it. By rolls. So each team's going to have an even amount of tanks for whatever this arbitrary role is you've decided that tank has. That's a mirror. That's what you're doing. You're mirroring. Which is, let's go back to just balancing by heavies and mediums. If you just make sure the same amount of heavies and mediums are on each team, you don't have that giant hit point disparity, which is really at the core of what the problem is with your matchmaking right now, where you can get teams with a whole giant hit point disparity. Then when you throw the layer of the random maps, relatively random maps on top, that's where you start to get those huge mismatches. And in some cases, the advantage is given to the lower hit point tanks because of all the extra mediums that they have, or the tiers of mediums that they have. Holy cow. I mean, I don't know how they could have got it any wronger than this. Lastly, they're going to try to match platoons. So Matchmaker tries to ensure teams are evenly assembled regarding the number of platoon players and their vehicle tiers. Its primary goal, however, it currently doesn't balance platoon vehicles by roles. Oh boy. Instead, it evens out the matchups by adding standalone vehicles teams. If the current queue composition allows for it with no increase in the wait time. For example, this is the key here. If a team has a platoon of autoloader medium tanks, the matchmaker places it against a platoon of medium tanks. Then it tries to add standalone autoloader tanks to the other team to even out their chances. I don't know why on earth they believe that autoloaders have to be matched. Are autoloaders do their numbers show something about autoloaders that we don't know? Are they actually that high performing? Did they create that big of a mismatch? Especially at tier 10? I don't know. It's interesting. Vehicle rolls. Here's where they start to break it down, but never really explain it. If you look at the way light tanks and arty fight, there's no immediate value in breaking these two classes into smaller packs grouped around a certain role. I would contend there's no immediate value to doing it for mediums and heavies. Basically, the gist of this is they don't think there's an advantage but to break them down, and you don't get an advantage because you have a certain amount of a certain kind of light tank or SPG. I'll buy that. I agree. I also think that applies to mediums and heavies, but they do not. TDs, medium and heavy tanks are a whole other story. Well, that's interesting because TDs now are part of this roles thing. Earlier, they were balanced by just TDs. Now they've been pulled into the we need to balance by roles thing, and then they've taken the heavies and mediums and added it. And then they've cut out the SPGs and LTs, which they had earlier balanced by numbers. Wow, man. This is a tangled web we are weaving. All right, so we look at this. So let's take medium tanks with powerful guns and moderate armor, for example. At tier 9 and 10, are there any medium tanks that do not have powerful guns and moderate armor? You will note also that this roll thing is tier 8 to 10. Interesting. But even at tier 9, I can't really find any medium tanks that don't have a powerful gun and moderate armor to weak armor. These are designated support vehicles. By who? Wargaming, of course. They're peers with strong protection but average mobility. All right, so what are these mediums at tier 9 and 10 with strong protection and moderate mobility? The E50 and 50M? Those are the two I can think of. Unless you're talking about the hover tanks and the turrets, the rounded turrets for the 3, 4, actually 5 I guess it is now, counting the special vehicles like the T-22 and 907. Again, not designated here, not broken out. There's no indication of exactly what they're talking about. These are all just vague hand-waving motions that makes it sound like they've put a lot of thought into this. There's a whole bunch of medium tanks sporting autoloader guns. Well, are autoloaders, are they, what did you say, powerful guns and moderate armor, or are they designated support vehicle, or sorry, or are they strong protection but average mobility, or is this a third role? It appears to be a third role. Autoloaders are a role. I don't get it. Having analyzed the key parameters and combat performance of TDs, medium, and heavy tanks, we outline primary roles for each class at tiers 8 to 10. The structure you see below is not final. We want to hear your thoughts. I got a lot of thoughts. I give you all kinds of thoughts. Okay, so let's just look at, for example, mediums. And we'll look at tier 10s. So in group 1, we got the Leopard, AMX, and STB. Okay, that sort of sounds right. This dude has a lot more turret armor and poke ability than this guy has, and this guy has, although I'm not sure if the STB got its buff. Is it in 920.1? Anyway, I think there's a buff coming to it if it hasn't already happened. Nothing's happened to this guy. Completely different in my book, really, at this point. This guy can poke and has a reasonable chance of bouncing like other mediums and lower tier guns. He has 0. All right, so let's move on to here. Yep, autoloaders are a role. These are roles. Group 1 role, Group 2 role, no indication of what the F the role is. But it's Group 2 role. Group 3 is, I'm assuming, what they think is the armored guys, because the M's in here. In the 430, we got 3 of the hover tanks are in here. But then there's Group 4 where the other 2, well 3, if you count the 1 to 4, count the 121. So why are those guys different? And then this guy has kind of the same turret as these guys, to be quite honest. But and of course he's sort of up here with these guys as far as I'm concerned, the way he fights. Although he has a little bit more whole armor. What are they doing? I don't get it, man. This is fantastic. It really is. Let's look at the TDs just for giggles. Tier 10 TDs. This one was fun for me. Not really heavily armored. Okay, I guess. Really heavily armored. Relies more on angles. Yeah, that's definitely heavily armored. And then heavily armored, definitely, man, the 110E3 bulls through. Then his armor isn't even close to the rest of them. This dude's armor doesn't match any of these dudes. Is this the armor guys or the just Group 1 role? What's their role? Okay. These two are grouped together. The grill and the stir. This guy will bounce nothing, ever. Ever. Unless it's a light tank and a weird angle or you hit his gun. He's bouncing nothing. This tank will bounce stuff quite a bit, actually, because of the crazy angles. And the big heat shield if you're firing heat at the guy. Not even close. I don't get it. Well, how are they even the same group? Come down here, and then this is just the rest of them. Group 3 is everyone else. 2 autoloaders. Well, I guess autoloaders for TDs don't get their own group. Sorry, autoloaders. No group for you. You do not, TDs do not have the autoloader role. Wait, no, it's a role, or is it a, I don't know. And then, of course, the big, now these are the big gun guys, so that must be what's going on here, but these guys don't, well, he does sort of, but he does, the 155, but this guy's just the outlier guy. Maybe there wasn't enough to make their own role. So, If they added the WTF 100, then they could have a new autoloader roll. The roll of the autoloader. Wargaming, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's only one roll for the tier 10 artillery. There's only one roll for the tier 10 tanks. Mediums, anyway, so take a look at that, and if you can make any sense of what they're doing. I can read it too. I can also break them down into tanks that sort of fight similarly. I do understand that, but designing your matchmaker around that kind of nebulous idea that's really undefined and changes with the meta and is really determined by how your players play the game, that's chasing your tail, Wargaming. You're not going to get there with this. You are not going to get there with this. You're going to make it overly complicated. You're going to limit the amount of different kinds of setups that you get within the game, which is going to decrease some of the interesting aspects of the game as far as seeing different kinds of battles out there. The only thing you needed to balance was heavies and mediums, and then let the rest of it fall out. And over time, you're going to have some games where you have a slight advantage, some games where you have a bit of a disadvantage, and it's going to depend on your maps, players, and such as that. What you needed to get rid of was the massive hit point disparity that you had when somebody is sitting with all heavies and the other guys have pretty much all mediums. And you don't need to worry about whether it's the super heavies or the heavies. They're close enough in capability and play style that if you just match heavies across and mediums across, as far as numbers go, it's all going to come out in the wash. And it would be so much easier than whatever is going on here, which is, I have no idea. No idea. All right, guys. Let's move on to the finale. All right, guys, that is it for this week for Tactics Talk Coffee Talk. Hope you enjoyed my rant about matchmaking. Once again, all they needed to do was balance heavies and mediums. We talked about the specials, we talked about some of the missions and some of the goofiness with that, unpacked all that stuff, and then we had a long discussion about 9.2.1 and the matchmaker changes. This will be interesting to watch. The game's not going to crash and burn or disintegrate just because they changed the matchmaking like this, but I really think that there are some second and third order effects from this that nobody's going to like very much. And we will see what happens with it. Well, that is it for me this week. We will see you next week and the rest of the Tactics Talks for the week. As always, if you've got something cool, you see a Tactics Talk that I've done and something has helped you, and you have an example of that in a game, or if you have a really fantastic game, you want to be the replay of the week, or if you're just looking for a replay analysis, I can do that two ways, just via text. I can just send it back to you if you don't want your game transported across the interwebs. But if you'd like a video made as well, send that to me and I will do so. And as always, we will see you.